Yesterday, the Chief Whip of Reform UK Limited was asked one question about the £5 million his leader took from the crypto billionaire. Just one question. He refused to answer it 3 times. He told the presenter he was talking absolute nonsense and demanded to know if any of it had to do with the show. The Chief Whip, the man whose entire job is to make other people answer for things. And while that was happening on Times Radio, Robert Jenrick was over on LBC attacking a tourist tax with a number he appears to have invented on the spot, sitting 2 feet away from the Mayor of Liverpool, who took it all apart right there on the spot. Andy Burnham had been Prime Minister for roughly about 5 hours. Reform sent out 2 of their big hitters to spoil the party, and both of them ended up answering for Reform instead. And so in this video, I'm going to show you both exchanges. Okay, quick scene setting because it matters for what comes next. Monday, Burnham walks into number 10, gives a speech, does the whole lectern thing without the lectern. Every broadcaster wants reaction. So Reform's Chief Whip, Lee Anderson, gets a call from Times Radio while he's on the Clacton campaign trail, where Nigel Farage is currently fighting a by-election on August 13th. Keep that date in mind because obviously we'll be covering a lot of it here on the channel. And Anderson certainly has. Because when John Pienaar puts to him that Farage's polling has been dented by, quote, accusation of rule breaking and secretly taking millions from crypto billionaire, Anderson doesn't like it that much.
I tell you what, John, we've got some polls in Clacton in a few weeks' time. It's called a by-election, and we'll see what the outcome of them polls are on August the 13th.
Okay, standard stuff. Politician dodges polling question, points to an election he expects to win. Nobody's going to jail for that. But hold on to that swagger because it evaporates in about 3 minutes. First though, Anderson wants to talk about corruption. And this is probably why he doesn't do a lot of media interviews. He's furious about how Burnham got into Parliament, the Makerfield seat swap.
Up there, we've had a mayor of Greater Manchester. He said to his mate, give up your seat, let me become the MP for this area, so I'll become Prime Minister. Oh, and by the way, I'll probably give you a good job in number 10 when the time comes. I mean, that is just corrupt all over.
Corrupt all over. Lee Anderson has opinions about political arrangements between mates. Now remember that because Pienaar clearly did, and his very next question is about a political arrangement between mates. Here's what that question is about and why it's the story Reform would give limbs to bury. Last week, The Guardian reported from separate sources that in March of 2024, Farage told senior Reform insiders he'd need compensating if he came back to frontline politics. $1 million a year, he said. He couldn't put himself, and I quote, through the ringer of standing and ending up skint. Taking Reform through the 2024 election onto the 2029 would cost him £5 million, he argued. On the 5th of April 2024, weeks after those conversations, crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne handed Farage £5 million as a personal gift, we're told. Unconditional, nothing to do with anything. Just one of those £5 million coincidences that happen to be men of the people. Now, the party denies the Guardian story, but the reason the framing matters, the reason is this is more important than just Westminster gossip, is that a gift and a payment for services are different in the eyes of parliamentary rules and, more entertainingly, the taxman. Now, tax lawyer Dan Needle has said that if the money was actually compensation for lost earnings, Reform's own company could be staring at a bill of around about £3 million. There's already a Standards Commission investigation sitting over the gift, so this is a live, expensive, existential question for the party. And here's the Chief Whip of that party being asked about it.
To compensate for lost earnings if he returned to politics, which he subsequently did. Now, the party denies that, and you will, I presume, deny that. Is that a lie, do you think, Lee? Is it a smear?
John, I was invited on this interview today to talk about Andy Burnham's speech today. What's this got to do with Andy Burnham's speech?
And that's refusal number 1. Pienaar points out reasonably that they're talking about politics, and this rather bears on it.
Well, we're talking about politics, and we're talking, and politics at the moment is about Reform's relative position to the government.
I was invited to come on this interview today to talk about Andy Burnham's speech today. What's this last question got to do with any of that? It's got absolutely nothing to do with that at all.
Refusal number 2. Now, word for word identical, almost like, he's just repeating what he's been told. Pinar then tries once more. It bears on the standing of the leader of your party.
It bears on the standing of the leader of your party and your party.
You're talking absolute nonsense, John. Like I say, for the third time, I came on this interview today. You asked me to come on to talk about Andy Burnham's speech today. What you're saying now has got nothing to do with that.
3 refusals, 0 denials. Think about how cheap a denial is. It's rubbish strong. Next question. 4 seconds cost nothing if it's true. And Anderson had 3 clean opportunities to say the story is false, and each time he chose instead to argue about the booking terms of the radio interview. And when Pinar later suggests that Reform's fiscal plans are still work in progress, Anderson tells him to go and click on Reform UK's website, because Pinar says he's seen the plans, and then Anderson pounces.
A work in progress for who, John?
For your party. In setting out your fiscal plans in credible detail.
We've set them out many, many times where the savings are going to come from. And what I suggest you do, John, after this call, is click on the Reform UK website.
Oh, I've seen them. Oh, trust me, Lee, I have seen the plans.
Well, there you go. We've just said we've not set out any plans, and now you're saying that we have.
Got him. Except nobody said the plans don't exist. Pinar said that they aren't credible. Existing and adding up are different achievements. Anderson celebrates this imaginary gotcha and then rounds on the man asking.
Still very many questions over the credibility of this.
Yeah, many questions from who? People like you? I mean...
it's the job of people like me to ask questions, Lee. I'm sure you know that.
People like you, journalists, asking questions. The absolute nerve of them. So that's the Chief Whip. Now, LBC, where Tom Swarbrick has Robert Jenrick and Liverpool Mayor's Steve Rotherham, and Jenrick wants to attack Burnham's overnight visitor levy, the so-called tourist tax, on behalf of working families. Has even brought a case study.
But, the other day I was in Cleethorpes visiting Haven Holidays there, and they offer holidays for families who've not got much cash at all for as little as 80 quid. Now, that kind of holiday in a caravan in Cleethorpes will go up by 50% if this nightly charge came in.
50%. On £80 holiday, that's £40 in tourist tax. So where does that number come from? Not from any levy that exists. Manchester charges £1 a night. Liverpool, whose mayor was sitting opposite Jenrick as he said this, charges £2. Wales has just legislated £1.30 per person per night, 75p if you're camping. Edinburgh's incoming levy is 5%, which on the entire £80 caravan break is £4. The closest ancestor of Jenrick's figure is a hypothetical the boss of Butlins floated back in April, imagining a £2 per person per night charge, a rate the government dismissed at the time as pure speculation, adding it as no plans to set a specific rate. So the generous reading is that Jenrick took the holiday industry's worst-case lobbying scenario, built on a rate that officially does not exist, and then rounded it up and presented it to the nation as something that will happen. Now, the part that turns it from sloppy to absurd under the government's plan is this discretionary power for regional mayors. Cleethorpes is in Greater Lincolnshire, and the mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, which is my hometown, is Andrea Jenkins of Reform UK Limited. Great, isn't it? Who ruled out a tourist tax for the entire county in April, telling the BBC it would pick up the pockets of families. 3 months before Jenrick stood in that caravan park. The £40 tax terrorising the families of Cleethorpes cannot happen because his own colleague has already vetoed it, publicly. Robert Jenrick is just scaremongering about a policy his own party has blocked. In the one place it's been blocked, using a number the government calls speculation. Rotherham, for his part, just points out that nobody has ever cancelled a trip to Barcelona over an €8 city charge.
When you go to abroad, I'm sure you do, Robert, all the time because you've got great wealth, you don't ever dictate where you're going on the local tax regime. So if you stay in Barcelona, it's not like you're going to say, I'm not going to Barcelona because they charge €8 a night.
Which is the kind of observation available to people describing things that exist. Then Jenrick, warming up, tells us who Reform really are now.
And that Reform is not a party of kind of reheated Thatcherism. We're a workers' party.
You've got a lot of Thatcherites, innit?
I don't know about that, actually. I think people in Reform generally see that the problems of today are very different to those of the 1980s. They'll need different solutions. Does he really understand how hard it is?
Can Reform really understand it with a multimillionaire leader?
Well, I don't. I've never taken the view that understanding issues and having a plan to fix this country is dependent on where you've got to in life.
A workers' party. Swarbrick immediately asked the obvious question whether a workers' party can be led by a multi-millionaire, and Jenrick says he never believed understanding issues depend on where you've got to in life, which is a lovely sentiment and also the exact conversation his colleague was refusing to have on Times Radio at that very moment. The Workers' Party, whose leader, per The Guardian's reporting, wouldn't rejoin politics without $1 million a year, whose chief whip won't discuss it, and whose newest recruit is out warning families about a tax his own mayor has banned in April. Jenrick also announced that nobody under 30 can even remember who Margaret Thatcher was, which would be news to anyone under 30 who's opened a history book or a newspaper or probably Netflix. So, day one of the Burnham era, this is the party leading the national polls, and here's what a single afternoon of light questioning produced. A chief whip who calls a seat swap corrupt all over, but goes into full system failure when his own leader's $5 million comes up, and a former minister whose flagship attack line dissolves on contact with a calculator. They didn't stumble on hostile ground. This was a call-in and a comfortable interview. The whole thing runs through the Clacton result on August 13th and the Standards Commissioner after that, and I'll be covering every twist of it, so subscribe if you want to follow it properly, and the memberships are open if you are able to and you can support the channel. Because if this is reform under gentle pressure on a Monday afternoon, imagine them with actual power. And do you know that Nigel Farage is actually taking his by-election seriously? He's doing campaign videos and everything. There's only just one small thing that is kind of missing from it though, and that's some policies, which you can see in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.